Sahana Vavatu Sahano Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavai Tejasvinavaditamastu Ma Vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. May the Divine Being look over us lovingly as a mother and father. May the Divine Being support and nourish us as a mother and father. May we have the strength and skill to study together the art of spirituality. May no misunderstandings arise amongst us. Welcome, everyone. We are studying Swami Vivekananda's collection of talks published as Jnana Yoga. We are on chapter 14, Immortality. Before we begin, is there anything that is in your mind that about what we've read or talked about so far that needs some comment or there's a concern to raise or a question? Because we shouldn't go ahead as long as there's something that you want to say or ask. All right. The Swami is about to say something very shocking in one way of thinking about it. But what we have to remember about what he's going to say, when he says all ignorant people, this is not a judgment. It is merely an observation that those who are not realized souls, Jivan Mukta, illumined while embodied, are innately living in ignorance. So the Swami says, that which all ignorant people see as the universe does not really exist. That's what I mean by a shocking statement. This, in another place, he says, man the infinite dreamer, dreaming finite dreams. So this ignorance of ours, he characterizes as a dream. That which all ignorant people see as the universe does not really exist. What are you and I, and all these things we see? Merely self-hypnotism. There is but one existence, the infinite, the ever-blessed one. It's in that existence we dream all these various dreams. It is the Atman, beyond all, the infinite, beyond the known, beyond the knowable, in and through that we see the universe. So I'll repeat that. In that existence, that one existence, we dream all these various dreams. It is the Atman, beyond all, the infinite, beyond the known, beyond the knowable, in and through that Atman, we see the universe. It is the only reality. It is this table. It is the audience before me. It is the wall. It is everything. It is everything minus the name and form. So the name and form is what we are hypnotized by, that we are dreaming. We are dreaming these names and forms. Why? Because if we are to believe the scriptures, the Chandogya Upanishad is explicit, the cosmic mind, or Brahman, or Atman, Nirguna Atman, Atman beyond the gunas, it said, I am one, I shall become many. Now this set off a chain of events that gave rise to Maya, which gave rise to Hiranyagarbha, the cosmic egg, which gave rise to Jagat, the universe, and therefore us, evolving, as the Swami says, from the involute that is the primordial cause. And yet, from the perspective that the Swami is talking just now, nothing ever happened. The dream of manyness began in the cosmic mind, and that dream has all of these apparent effects. That cause has all of these apparent effects. But I'm going to go back and read from the beginning now. What the Swami says is the truth of the matter. That which all ignorant people, by which the Swami means all people who are not realized, that which all ignorant people see as the universe does not really exist. What are you and all these things we see? Mere self-hypnotism. There is but one existence, the infinite, the ever-blessed one. In that existence we dream all these various dreams. It is the Atman, which is just another name for Brahman. The Atman is that seeming aspect of Brahman that arises in what seem to be individual human beings. It is the Atman, beyond all, the infinite, beyond the known, beyond the knowable. And through that, capital T, and through that we see the universe. It is the only reality. It is this table, it is the audience before me, it is the wall, it is everything minus the name and form. What Vasishta called consciousness in vibration. What you perceive, he said to Rama. The sage Vasishta was Lord Rama's teacher. He said, what you see, what you perceive, is nothing more than a vibration of consciousness. This dream is a vibration of consciousness. Take away the form of the table, take away the name, what remains is it. The Vedantist does not call it either he or she. These are fictions, delusions of the human brain. There is no sex in the soul, no gender, he means. There is no gender in the soul. People who are under illusion, who have become like animals, see a woman or a man. Living gods do not see men or women. How can they, who are beyond everything, have any sex idea, any gender idea? Everyone and everything is the Atman, the self, the sexless, the pure, the ever blessed. It is the name, the form, the body which are material, and they make all the difference. If you take away these two differences of name and form, the whole universe is one. There are no two, but one everywhere. You and I are one. There is neither nature, nor God, nor the universe, only that one infinite existence, out of which, through name and form, all these are manufactured. So the Swami's about to make a pivot now to say, how do you know this? Before we go on, this must give rise to many thoughts and many it may be your own wisdom that emerges, your own experiences with this phenomenon of name and form appearing and disappearing. It may be that there's something about it that concerns you, or that you simply have a question. Any of that. This is a class, not a lecture. So please, what is it about this that you would like to comment on in any way?
Brother Shankara, this is Haima.
Yes, Haima.
In the next line, he said, the whole universe is one. There are no two but one everywhere. And we only find that slowly through meditation. I realized that. We are all one. All of us have those gunas. Excuse me.
Yes. All of us experience name and form.
That's right.
No doubt.
We all have those gunas, sattva, raja, and tama gunas in different levels. Some has one extreme, tama, some has sattva guna extreme. So that realization comes through meditation slowly. I realize that it slowly comes. All of us have the same qualities, but they are in a different degrees. Some are in manageable way, like under control. The sattva is more, and then we can go higher up from sattva. And that is what I am noticing with my personal experience through meditation.
Thank you for sharing that, dear. Yes, it's only from turning away from name and form. Name and form are excuse me. Name and form are an effect of having the 5 organs of perception and the 5 organs of action. Without them, when we turn away from them, as we're studying in Raja Yoga, when we turn away from them, when we practice asana and pratyahara, and incidentally pranayama, then we turn away from the creation of the gunas, which is using our mental impressions, all our past mental impressions. These gunas, as Haima was pointing out, create this appearance of name and form. We believe in it because it is so convincing and compelling. And the reason it is so convincing and compelling is that it has all the power of Brahman or Atman behind it. Which is called Mahamaya, that great energy that makes this dream so convincing and compelling is called Mahamaya.
Until we realize ourselves, we don't know what guna is extreme or low in ourselves. That's what I'm understanding as I read more and as I experience more. Unless we know ourselves, until we get the self-realization, we're not going to know how much sattva guna I have and what degree is all the gunas are in my own self.
And in a sense, Haima, it really doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Because that which we are seeking, that's what we are turning away from. And there ultimately, and it takes a while to get there, but ultimately there are no gunas. So in the meantime, it's probably not all that auspicious to be measuring how much guna of this kind or that kind is in my awareness. The thing that is the Swami Swahananda pointed out, it is change in behavior that betrays spiritual progress.
Definitely.
So thank you.
Thank you, Brother Shankara. Thank you.
Anyone else have anything at all?
Yeah, Brother Shankara.
Yes, dear.
The where it says fictions and delusions of the human brain. One thing that sort of makes it plausible or makes me realize is the bizarre dreams we have. The mind is capable of making up so many things that when we wake up, did I dream that? How was that possible? And of course, in deep sleep, then there's that blankness or oneness. But I guess the goal is to achieve that oneness when we are in so-called waking state.
Exactly. But it's true that our second world, the world of dreams, our active subconscious that creates these fictions while we're asleep. And Carl Jung said they're not fictions exactly. They are simply a different world we're living in at that time. And that's the way the Upanishads speak of it too. As Vivekananda points out in another context, the incongruity and discontinuity of our dreams while asleep only become apparent to us when we wake up. Well, the same thing, he says, is true of this dream of name and form that we are experiencing right now. When we wake up, we see that we are creating the continuity. There is no continuity. And this is what the Buddha meant when he said, you're not the same person that you were a moment ago, but you seem to be to yourself because you hold on to those past impressions and reapply them in the present moment rather than being present to the present moment. Thank you, Swayam. You're very right. Anything else from anyone?
Thank you.
Yes, Vijay.
Hari Om.
Hari Om.
About the gunas, I also used to feel as if the gunas are in me and noticing the predominance of one or the other, until you corrected me one time to say that, Vijay, you have no gunas, And then you explained to me that gunas are in the prakriti, and that we partake of them like fragrance of the rose. I go past the garden and I enjoy the fragrance at that time. Same
Yes,
way.
that would be the sattvic. That would be the sattvic experience of the fragrance of the rose. Yes.
So correct me if I'm wrong in what I'm recalling from my previous conversation with you quite a long time ago, that gunas don't belong to me, gunas belong to Prakriti.
No, you're absolutely right.
Okay.
We if we take seriously what the Swami is saying, that this is all a dream, a delusion, we have nothing, not the gunas, not the effects of the gunas. We simply are experiencing from moment to moment what Mahamaya or Prakriti, they're the same thing, two words for the same thing, two different philosophical systems, one Vedanta, one Sankhya. It is the power of this that is creating the dream. And when, even before we wake up from the dream, we can have the conviction, oh my God, I do not possess anything. This seeming separate self, which has been so entranced with the idea of having and doing, is a fiction, and it will disappear with this embodiment. And then what? Then that which is becomes more apparent to us. You can read about this in the experiences of those who've had near-death experiences. So we're doing this because something in us called the Atman, Saguna Atman, the Atman, Brahman, with its Prakriti, with its Mahamaya and its attendant gunas, Saguna Atman wants it to happen. It has its own intentions and experiences our experiences, and as Krishna says in the Gita, and thereby sanctions them. So it isn't as if we should feel badly in any way that we have these experiences. Something in us called Saguna Atman wants to do this. And when we stop wanting to do it, then we'll stop doing it.
Brother Shankara, you explained very well about the dream, and at the same time, in our everyday life, each of us operating at any point in time the way we do, our actions are guided by what guna from the nature is affecting me at that time. What fragrance am I partaking at that time? I'm a little bit lost with the idea that it's a dream. Yes, at the higher level, it's a dream. It's all a dream, nothing but a dream. If I'm realized or going toward realization, and yet to operate in my daily life, I have to accept that my actions are being guided by the gunas that I'm partaking at that time. Is that
Well,
true or not?
that's because you continue to want to have that experience. When you no longer want to have that experience, when you renounce that experience, when you let it go, then it will no longer pertain to you. And there's no reason you shouldn't want it. There's no reason you shouldn't go on as you're going on. Everything will unfold at the proper time. But it isn't as if what you're saying is true of yourself is true of everyone else. The Haima said something different. Swayam came at it somewhat differently. The fact is that each of us, being unique, will experience this uniquely and will eventually create our own path to realization. And we hold on to and release those things that seem to us to be fulfilling at the time that we continue to engage in them. And it's just as simple as that, but it's not easy to let go. It isn't easy to let go because we're so habituated to this dream, this illusion, and we're so habituated to it because we have been convinced for so long of its truth, of its reality. And the reason for that is that it has the power, all the power that is behind this universal dream, this dream of universe. Man is an infinite dreamer. Man is an infinite dreamer, dreaming finite dreams. This is a quote from Swami Vivekananda. So all of this is a dream of finitude, because something in us wants this finitude, this sense of separation. And at the same time, it causes us great anguish.
Brother Shankara,
Yes?
in the news, we all hear, especially recently, very frequent news about the shootings at the school, etc., different schools. And the thought at that time goes to me as to how and what gunas would be affecting the person in that situation. And then also further that if I am in a situation similar to that where I have to confront somebody who is wielding a knife or something, just in case, how must I operate at that time in terms of calming the person if the gunas are affecting that person to wield a knife or whatever?
Vijay, as long as you project yourself outward like this, that there might be a person who has a knife,
Fear.
and you're going to have to react, then you're just not being in the present moment, because there is no one with a knife in the present moment. You are not where these school shootings happen. There's no possible way for you to know what is motivating, even if the police explain the motivation and so on. It's still just the merest, tiniest approximation of what is really happening. And it's unknowable. That's what the Swami just got through saying. It is unknowable. So what can we know? We can know what we are experiencing in this present moment. And the moment we project ourselves out from that present moment, we're just simply not being present to what's true for us in that moment. we're creating more dream and illusion by projecting ourselves out, projecting ourselves into a situation where there's school shootings, projecting ourselves into this situation where I might encounter someone who's wielding a knife. You absolutely cannot know what you would do in either of those situations if you were present to them. There's no way for you to rehearse it in the event of projecting yourself into being with someone who is threatening you with a knife. There's no way to project yourself truly into this situation of these school shootings.
Thank you, Brother Shankara. And the thought of that kind is coming from a real life experience where almost 20 some years ago or more, somebody pulled a gun and I got saved. So,
Well, when you say a real life experience, Vijay, this is an expression, this is a phrase you use often. What the Swami has just told you is that you have had no real life experiences. There is no such thing, no different life that is a real life apart from the dream. That's what the Swami says. I'm not saying you need to accept it. There's no should here. But this is what the Swami said. You dreamed that you were in a situation where someone pulled a gun, and the dream unfolded in such a way that you were, as you put it, saved. But none of that is the reality. It's all the dream of name and form. And the fact that you remember it is just your own decision. You can release that memory and say, that was my karma then. What is my karma now in this moment? Because the karma then has absolutely nothing to do with your karma in this moment, except as you choose to have it be so. Now, the comment has been made before that as an artist, you deal in memory. As a poet, you deal in memory, you deal in the things that are not tangible in the moment. What is tangible in the moment is your dealing with the memories to use them as inspiration and create form out of words. This is what artists do. But there is nothing, it is a higher form of activity than being an investment banker, one could say, because you're dealing with a higher forms of samskara. But that's all it is. It is not the reality, capital R. But there's no reason that you must involve yourself, or any of us must involve ourselves with the reality, capital R. The Swami is giving us reason to, as he develops these thoughts, and he's about to go on how to know the knower, that is, that which is dreaming this dream. But there's no compelling reason for you to do this, or for any of us to do this, unless it is our choice.
thank you. Thank you.
Brother Shankara,
Yes,
I feel that if I take a witness attitude that I was witness to something that happened in the past, but it's not happening right now, or something projecting in the
What is
future.
happening right now is your memory of it.
Right.
That's what's happening right now.
So if I focus on the present and be a witness to what, just take a witness attitude and not be involved in the past or the future, and focus on the present moment.
That will lead someone who does what you just described will, over time, have a very clear vision through the eyes of this witness, which is the Saguna Brahman. Through the eyes of this witness, they will see very clearly that this is a dream, or the metaphor has been used of a motion picture taking place in front of you. That you, the true you of yourself, may be at sometimes an actor in the drama that is unfolding in front of you. The embodied being, the jiva, may be an actor, sometimes may be an observer, but not the witness, simply observing the drama, as we do sometimes when we're listening to others have a conversation and so on. But the witness sees it all as this dream unfolding in front of us, which can be characterized as a motion picture or a stage play.
So witness is kind of like a state of higher thought. Observer can get involved or cannot. You can just be pure observer, without.
Well, we jump in and out of the screen all the time. We jump in and out of the action all the time. Sometimes we're observing the action. I mean, I'm talking about the embodied being, the jiva. We're observing the action taking place in front of us. It's like watching a baseball game. But then somebody says, hey, I understand you're a pretty good batter. We need a batter on our team. Come on. You come to the plate and pinch hit for so-and-so. So you were watching the ball game. Now you're a ball player in the ball game. But the witness would see all of this, and the witness does not get involved at all. It only observes. It only witnesses. The observer that I'm talking about may be a participant or not.
Okay, thank you for the clarification.
We jump in and out of the action all the time. We do it all the time. Every day, we'll we hear a loud noise in the neighborhood, and we go and we say, "What's that?" So we look and we see that these two people are yelling at one another about something having to do with their cars. You don't get involved. You remain an observer. But the witness is apart from all of that and is witnessing your jiva participation as an observer. So there's that level. There's the observer, sometime participant, and then there is the witness. The witness is always the same and never involved.
Okay, thank you for that explanation and clarification. Thank you.
Brother Shankara,
Yes?
speaking of the witness concept, whenever
Vijay, could you hold on just a moment, hold that thought, and see if there's anyone else who would like to. This
Yes.
has become a conversation among the three of us, and I'd like to see if there's anyone else who has anything they would like to add or comment as we go ahead here.
Brother Shankara,
Yes, dear.
I do have a question. How can we get better at living in the moment. Moment is such a tiny fraction of time. By the time we think of the moment, that's gone and the next moment is here. So what exactly does it mean living
Well,
in the moment?
that's exactly the point, Swayam. There is no such thing as moments, really. It's an invention of this prakriti through the gunas to bring about change in things so that things seem to be changing. So the moment is the moment is the moment is the moment is the moment. There's this moment and the next moment and the next moment. So it isn't as if this moment is an isolated event. It's constantly slipping along from moment to moment. So the worst thing we can do in terms of spiritual progress is hold on to the content of any moment, even a very elevated one. Is that clear?
Yes, thank you, Brother Shankar.
Is there any follow-up?
No, I think I grasped that. Thank you.
Okay. Anyone else have anything to offer or add or ask? Okay, Vijay, what was your question again?
One moment. Before I go to that question, a thought about the moment, and correct me if my concept is wrong. I have felt after plenty of thinking on the topic of time that there is no such thing as time. The concept of time is in itself an invention by us human beings.
No,
Ultimately, if all is,
not by human beings.
Mahamaya.
It is an invention of the divine in order that the dream can seem to have change in it. We didn't invent time. We invented the measurement of time, but not time itself. At least if we're to believe the scriptures.
thank you. And I felt that, speaking of the time, that time is, just period, just like Brahman is, time is. That anything we speak of minute to minute or hour to hour is only a concept.
Okay.
Is that thinking that my thought process led me to, does that seem correct?
Vijay, I don't know enough about what, and it would take too long for us as a class to explore what you mean by that. But at least from an initial reaction, I see nothing wrong in what you said. But I really don't understand what you mean by it. So let's just let it go at that. And if you want to have a private conversation about it, about the concept of time, then please ring me up and we'll have a conversation about it.
Thank you. Going back to the previous conversation about the dream, I live with this idea going back and forth within me where at the higher level, I believe that everything is a dream. But then being a jiva embodied in this physical form with all the actions that one goes through, it's very hard for me to accept the concept of dream.
Well, you choose to believe the dream of an embodied being. It's a choice you make. And there's no reason you shouldn't make the choice. The Swami is trying to convince us or he was trying to convince this audience, and we're sharing in that, that we're simply holding on to a delusion as long as we choose to believe that we are a body, that we are, that anything that we experience is anything more than that. It is just a creation of our ability to take the vibration of consciousness that is constantly going on and make of it a universe of name and form.
Thank you.
Namaste, everybody. Namaste, Brother Shankara.
Yes.
I have a small point to just share here with what Vijayji was saying. He said that with all the experiences we go through, and then when we say that it's a dream, it's a little difficult to digest. My personal opinion and from my own experience is that as we go deeper into our practice, what we realize is that this world is impermanent. The dream world is a little bit difficult to understand, at least for me. And Sri Ramakrishna would point out that the world is impermanent. And these are all experiences. And as for me, the world is temporary. It becomes so deep, it goes inside into you that the mind, it's like, for example, when I had my two children, I became a father. Now that being a father is a part of me. Someone told me that you had a child, so I became a father. It was a mind, intellect, but now it's drilled into me that I'm a father and I will always do something as a father would do. So it becomes inherent part of your personality. And so this impermanence of the world becomes completely inherent part of your personality. Wherever you do, whatever you do, it becomes completely integrated into your personality. And Sri Ramakrishna always said this, that this world is impermanent and we should stay focused onto it. And we should, and my opinion is that we should not over-engineer and go round and round trying to use the mind, because you cannot hold something, cannot grasp something through the mind. Like you said the other day that you cannot, which is not created, So that's my just opinion here, that if you go round and round, it's too difficult to understand. But we sit, practice every single day. After years and years, it changes the character, it changes the personality, everything. In fact, the brain also changes.
Oh, yes.
Thank you.
Demonstrably. As a matter of fact, the Dalai Lama's monks are at the Dalai Lama's Institute at Emory University are modeling this for the scientists who are studying them. The fact that their brains continue to change as their practice deepens. It's an amazing thing. The scientists are studying them to see what happens as they do their spiritual practices, and those monks, the Dalai Lama's monks, are studying modern science to see whether it agrees with or contradicts the concepts of Buddhism, Tibetan Buddhism, because the Dalai Lama has said if science can show that something that has been held as a belief within Tibetan Buddhism is not so, then Buddhism must give way and adopt the thinking of science. So, you're absolutely right, Shailesh. As we practice, we change, and therefore our behavior changes, and our belief in whatever upadhis, as you said, have become a part of our personality, our belief in those upadhis, those limitations that we have decided that are true of us, it either grows or diminishes. So thanks for that contribution. And you're right. Chasing our tail intellectually is not going to do it. We have to do it through spiritual practice, as Haima pointed out very early on. It is spiritual practice, day to day to day to day, that allows us to change our way of thinking, and therefore our way of speaking, and our way of acting. And only that spiritual practice will do that. Our left mind cannot do it. As Einstein said, you cannot solve a problem with the mind that created it. You have to create a new mind.
Brother Shankara,
Yes, dear.
Shailesh's comments brought to my mind a quick joke. Someone asks a 5-year-old child, "How old is your father?" So the child very confidently says, "Oh, my father is 5 years old." So your father is 5 years old? So he says, "Yeah, that's when he became a father."
Very nice.
Yeah, that's
Very
very
nice.
apt, very apt to what I
It
was
certainly
saying.
is. I love that.
Not bad. Never heard that one before.
That's good. Yes.
Very-
Yes, as a father, he is 5 years old. That Upadi is 5 years old. Beautiful. Okay. Anything else from anyone? Okay, we have a few minutes left. So the Swami has now posed this. He's asserted to us that that we are practicing a delusion, a fiction, a dream. And that behind that there is a knower. And so now he poses the question, how to know the knower? It cannot be known. How can you see your own self? You can only reflect yourself. So all this universe is the reflection of the one eternal being, the Atman, and as the reflection falls upon good or bad reflectors, so good or bad images are cast up. Thus in the murderer, the reflector is bad and not the self. It is in the saint, the reflector is pure. The self, the Atman, is by its own nature, the self, the Atman, is by its own nature pure. This is the same, the one existence of this is the same. It is the same. It is the same, the one existence of the universe that is reflecting itself from the lowest worm to the highest and most perfect being. The whole of this universe is one unity, one existence, physically, mentally, morally, and spiritually. Notice the ascension. One existence physically, mentally, the body, the mind, morally, the intellect, and spiritually. So all four aspects of ourselves are the one existence, physically, mentally, morally, and spiritually. This is why I said earlier, in response to a question, that there is no real life as opposed to spiritual life. Real life and spiritual life are one and the same thing. It's simply how we're looking at it. And if we wish to define our moment-to-moment experiences and the mental impressions that they leave with us as our real life and our spiritual existence as something other than that, that's a kind of dualism, and anyone is welcome to practice it. What the Swami will tell us is that it is limited. It won't give you much fulfillment, real fulfillment, to think in that way. So,
So, Brother Shankara,
yes, Dennis.
this is Dennis. A few paragraphs back, he said everything and everyone is the Atman, the self.
Yes.
And then just in this past paragraph, it was the murderer or the reflector is bad and not the self. Can you help me understand that?
Let's see what he exactly says. So all this universe is the reflection of that one eternal being, the Atman. And as the reflection falls upon good or bad reflectors, so good or bad images are cast up. Thus, in the murderer, the reflector is bad and not the self. The self, he doesn't mean it's that the reflector is, that there is not a self beyond that. He means the reflector is bad, not the self. The self is not bad. The reflector is bad. Is that clear?
That helps because this has always been the balance of good and evil and this and all of this eternal oneness. It
Yes.
always loops back on me, and I think I understand it, and then I think I don't understand it. So.
Right. as we all do, Dennis.
So thank you.
Even the realized soul, as described by Adi Shankaracharya, if they're not careful, that realization will elude their grasp for a moment or two. So, but what does he follow this with? In the saint, the reflector is pure. And then he says, so in the saint, the embodied being, they have purified themselves. So the reflection of the purity, the essential nature of the Atman, is more perfect. The self, the Atman, is by its own nature pure. It is the same, the one existence of the universe that is reflecting itself from the lowest worm to the highest and most perfect being. So it's only the self that is being reflected. The whole of this universe is one unity, one existence, physically, mentally, morally, and spiritually. And so what he's talking about, one existence, physically, the body, mentally, the mind, morally, the intellect, and spiritually, the intellect. By the intellect, that you can interchange the word buddhi. That is our moral center, our moral compass. And spiritually, which is above or behind all that. We are looking upon this one existence in different forms and creating all these images upon it. All right, it's 8:59. I think we'd better leave it there. I'll underline all of this and start with that next week. Let me just ask, as the Christmas season comes upon us, are you all wanting to continue this Wednesday night class? It's now, this is the 8th of December. So next week will be the 15th. And okay, that's just mid-December. But then the next week after that will be the 22nd. So do we want to suspend the class from Christmas until the end of the year? I'm asking, not telling. It is your class. So you tell me, and if you want to write me an email about it or text or something like that, you're most welcome to. But I'd like to know if we want to have classes from the 22nd, the 22nd and the 29th. We'll be having other activities during that time. Christmas Eve worship on the 24th, Holy Mother's birthday celebration and worship on the 26th. And then, of course, Christmas, it's a Christmas Day itself. So any response now from anyone about whether we can have class on the 22nd and the 29th?
Brother Shankara?
Yes, dear.
I'm okay if everybody wants to skip the 22nd and 29th.
Okay.
Me too, Brother Shankara. I will say yes for that.
Okay. Anyone else?
I have grandkids coming.
Yeah, I think it's a good idea because we have so many other activities and.
Yeah, I'm just afraid our attention would be too fragmented. That's my concern, and that's not a problem. I mean, it's just a part of having these holy days and involving ourselves. I myself, my son and daughter-in-law are coming on the 23rd and staying through the 27th. So during that time, my attention will definitely be divided. So let's just say then that we will not have class on the 22nd and the 29th. Okay, very good.
Are we going to have Monday, Tuesday classes, Brother Shankara, or do you want to suspend those?
I'll ask those questions. I'll ask that question next week.
Okay, sure.
Of those classes.
Thank you.
So we know now that we're not going to have a Wednesday class on the 22nd and the 29th. So I'll communicate that to Cindy, and she'll put it in the newsletter, which should come out tomorrow afternoon or evening. Then in the following week's newsletter, we'll have a discussion or we'll see whether there are others. I mean, my thought will be the same, that it's probably best for us to suspend our weekly classes starting, toward the end of the month. But these are not my classes; these are your classes. So we'll take it from there. All right. Any final thought from anyone? All right.
Brother Shankara?
Yes, dear.
I don't want to prolong into a long discussion, but quickly, is the reflector Maya?
The reflector is the body-mind-intellect complex, the antakarana, the mirror of the heart, and the chakras below it. The three above the heart are, it's very hard to describe because they don't really participate in the life of the gunas. The 5, 6, and 7, so to speak, those planes. They are beyond the ordinary idea of the reflection of the dream. Though we may have experiences there, they're of a very different nature than the experiences of even the heart, or certainly of the lower chakras, the lower planes.
Thank you.
If you'd like to talk about that in more detail, Swam, please give me a call and we'll talk about that, because this is, this is cutting it pretty fine. This whole business of being embodied is a dream. So even those higher planes or chakras are part of this, particularly 5 and 6 they partake of this. The 7th, no. The Sahasrara, no.
Thank you.
Anything else from anyone before we close? All right. Dearly beloved, a flower at your feet for each one who comes to your open door. A flower at your feet for each one who stands by your open door and says, come to me, offering to break this world's chain that binds us down to ignorance, suffering, and death. A flower at your feet for each one who takes the path that you have struck through this, your jungle world. Om, Amen. Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Peace, peace. Peace be unto us and to all beings everywhere. Jai Shri Guru Maharaj Ki Jai. Durga, Durga, Durga. May we be safe. May we be healthy. May we be cheerful. May we have peace of mind. May we go forward in the loving and protective embrace of the Divine Being as our Mother and Father. So, until Saturday, for those of you who choose to join us on Saturday for reading and discussing Swami Prabhavananda's Realizing God, his collection of talks published under that title. And then this Sunday, as I've been advertising, we'll have a delightful human being, Sister Eleanor Francis, an Episcopal nun who lives in a community of nuns in New Jersey. She'll be here in Atlanta visiting her sister, and she has offered to come and give us a talk this coming Sunday, the 12th, on Saint Teresa of Avila. And if that kind of talk about these wonderful illumined souls appeals to you, I can guarantee she will offer you a really good one. Good hardly even begins to encompass it. I've known her since the 1980s. She's the real deal for sure. So please join us on Sunday if you'd care to hear Sister Eleanor Francis. There'll be in tomorrow's newsletter, there will be a short description of her talk and a little biography of her. Anything else from anyone? Dennis, I'm glad you asked that question, because the Swami's language there was not clear. It probably was clear to the people who heard it in the moment, but as transcribed and read by me, it was not clear. So I'm really glad you helped us clear that up.
Thank you.
Anything else from anyone? Okay, dears, away we go. Good night. God bless. Happy holidays. Merry Christmas.